Hi everybody, my name is Mitch Lepicello, and I want to welcome you today to more ASD topics and tips. And today's topic is about books, and the tip is how to use books with your child with ASD and Asperger Syndrome. So I've got a bunch of different kinds of books here, and they're all kind of used differently in different situations. So the first set of books that I'm going to go over with you is going to be books that are written in the first person. And these books help children identify what it's like for them, and helping parents understand what it's like for even your own child to go through ASD. So the first book is called Mikey, and Mikey has ASD, and what's it like for him. And so his struggles and what he overcomes in that book is noteworthy. And as many of these books in the first person are, they kind of give a nice way for a child to read about somebody else besides themselves, and besides like who's looking at me and who's paying attention to me. And these books give a nice reading about somebody else who's like them, and and some coping strategies, frankly, to resolve some of the things that they struggle with through books. So here's another one called Armond Goes to a Party, and as you can imagine, Armond is looking very like, I'm not sure this party is for me. And so, as many kids with ASD can attest, parties may not be for them, and how to do a party and so on. So that's a really good book on that level. Okay, and this one's called ASD and Me. And referenced here is the high functioning autism, and that is a term that is used synonymously with Asperger Syndrome and ASD. So whenever you read these terms together, they're all ASD, generally speaking. So this boy describes what it's like for him, and a lot of kids relate to that, and that feels very comforting to them, and it really reduces their stress and gets them more comfortable with their own ASD aspects. A lot of kids use these books, frankly, to say, that's not like me. I don't have that particular challenge. I might have this particular challenge more. And so it also gives them some separation between what is different between different people with ASD. Everybody has different kinds or different aspects to their own ASD. So here is a favorite of mine that is called Asperger's, about a middle schooler. And I love it. It's right on the title. It says from a child's perspective. So this really clearly delineates this is what this boy is going through. And right out of the gate, the opening pages of this book is, here I am again going through more testing, another doctor, another assessment, what's going on, why me, and the initial struggles that a lot of kids can relate to, and probably a lot of parents too. So a really good book about going through the process of understanding, of being assessed for actually, and understanding ASD, and some strategies to help kids. So I'm going to shift now from first person to workbooks that help kids. It's still a very nice first person perspective though, and this workbook is written in the first person, and so it gives kids an identity about what their challenge is and how to solve some of these problems, and some strategies to use in on their journey with ASD. So first person, and very readable for a lot of different ages. Here's kind of a humorous book about ASD and Asperger Syndrome, meant to sort of be a little lighthearted in the process, and a lot of kids and families, as you can imagine, can relate to this one as well. All Cats Have Asperger's isn't necessarily a fact or fiction book. It's more like, oh, that's really funny. That's smart. I get that. And a lot of kids have actually said, that's like me, that's like me. So they can kind of relate, through, in this instance, the feline species. So that's a really good book that is very popular in my office here. Okay, I'm going to shift to another set of books that are helpful in the parenting process, that answer a lot of questions, raise a lot of good questions for discussion for sure. So this was called the Asperger's Answer Book. Again, raises a lot of good questions, a lot of good things to consider when helping your child through their own ASD journey at different stages that they might be at. So that's a good one. Here's one I've referenced for at least a decade. I'm not sure how old it is, but this Teresa Bollock book is very readable for parents has a lot of nice vignettes and a lot of nice anecdotes that help process some of the challenges through pre-adolescence and during adolescence. So very good for parents. This is one specific for girls with ASD. There are a number of books now that are coming out specific to girls and women with ASD that are different than boys with ASD. So this is just an example of many different books that are coming out that delineate some of the differences. This is for parents and kids who are off to college and what to do and what to consider and all the different things. So this is a fantastic book that was written probably about 10 years ago, and it's still very relevant, raises a lot of good questions. Who to disclose my ASD, all the different, living on campus kinds of things, away from college, at home during college, and so on. So this is a really good reference for those kids who are, and check this one out before you start visiting colleges, because it has some good what to do before you start visiting colleges. Okay, here are a couple books from men who have ASD or Asperger Syndrome. This fellow has ASD, and it's a good book about his journey and how he helps. And here's one from John Elder Robison. And I follow John on Twitter, and he has written another book about his young adult son with ASD. And it's a very, very compelling story, and he has really gone through a lot. And so it really talks about the process of being assessed and diagnosed back in the 50s and 60s, which you can imagine wasn't diagnosed and wasn't assessed and evaluated like it is today. So what his life was like back then and the process, and it is sad in many respects, and gives a nice perspective of where we've come in that process. Okay, my last two books are a little bit heady, a little bit in the thick of it, in the studies, in the clinical trials kind of book, but very, very good. Ami Klin and Fred Volkmar, leaders in Asperger Syndrome in the early 90s, and a really, really good book for things that are very true today. So a lot of good information if people want to get into the clinical trials and clinical studies, clinical paradigms that come up with ASD and overlapping comorbidity and so on. So that's a good book. And then here's another classic of mine, and one I reference to parents a lot, as you can tell with all my little note tabs on there, the complete guide to Asperger Syndrome, Tony Atwood. Notice it doesn't say ASD. So ASD, Asperger Syndrome are used interchangeably. We can maybe have a video on the difference between ASD and Asperger Syndrome. But what I'd like to know from you guys is, what are you looking for in your books and reading materials for helping your kids, your families, your co-parents work through this process on your ASD parenting journey, frankly. So what books have you found useful and supportive in the process of helping your kids? So I have also some magazines. This one is a good one, the Autism Digest and the Asperger Parenting, the Autism Parenting magazine. All right, everybody, those are my book reviews or ways of using books and materials with your kids and families. So good luck to you on your ASD parenting journey, and feel free to contact me through Facebook and other media outlets for any suggestions you have about books, reading materials. I'd love to hear them. So thanks so much, and thanks for watching.